welcome to another video. This is the first of many videos I'm going to be doing for Warhammer the Old World. I'm going to be kicking this content off with an in-depth look overview of the Bretonnians for the Old World. I'm really super excited. I'm going to be doing this army myself, so I cannot wait to jump in. If you do like my content, please like, subscribe and share, and it would be absolutely amazing if you could. So without further ado, let's jump in and get cracking on with this overview. So first things first is the army composition. So to make a grand army of Bretonnia, you're going to need up to 50% of characters, which can be 0 to 1 dukes, 0 to 1 barons or prophets, basically your wizardy ladies, and you can have one of each for 1 per 1,000 points, and then you can have any number of paladins, damsels and sergeant at arms. For your core, you're going to have 25% of your army is going to be made up of this. You have to have +1 units of knights of the realm and or mounted knights of the realm, +1 units of men at arms or peasant bowmen, and 0 to 1 units of knights of errant per unit of knights of the realm. So basically what this means is, for more of your better units that you have for likes of your sort of better knights, and we'll get into that as we go into them, you basically need to have a unit of knights errants to basically unlock the ability to take them. For your specials, you can have squires, questing knights, Pegasus knights and mounted yeomanry, and up to 2 units of battle pilgrims per 1,000 points, and you can have 50% for specials. Rares are 25% if your army can be made up of this, and they can be Grail knights and 1 field trebuchet per 1,000 points, and you can have 20% of mercenaries and 25% of allies, and you can have a battle standard as well. So the army has a number of special rules, and the first is Blessing of the Lady, which basically means that if you don't go first and you opt to go second in the turn, you get a 6-up ward save against any wounds suffered, and if the attack is strength 5 or higher, you also get a 5-up ward save. Now, one thing to note on this: if Bretonnians fight Bretonnians, nobody gets this rule because the lady just won't give you it. They can also lose this blessing by failing a morale and running away, i.e. fleeing, or refusing a challenge, and this only counts for your characters if they refuse a challenge. Now, just bearing in mind that if a unit was to fall back in good order, that does not count, and you would still retain your blessing. But if you break and flee and fail a challenge, then obviously you're not going to keep it. They also have Finest War Horses, which basically means when you charge, flee or pursuit rolls, you may re-roll the dice rolls of a natural 1 before discarding any of the dice that are required to be discarded, which is a pretty cool rule. They also have their own rules for lance formations, and they also have a rule for peasants. And if a unit with this special rule is within 6 inches of a friendly model that has a knight vow, questing vow or grail vow, and that model is not fleeing, they can use that model's leadership characteristic for any test that they need to take. So you can kind of keep your peasants around a little bit longer, which is kind of cool. Okay, so first up for the units is the Lords of Bretonnia. So for 175 points, you can have a Duke. For 100 points, you can have a Baron. And for 60 points, you can have a Paladin. These are both on a 25 by 25 base, and they can be mounted. Now, bear in mind, you've got a number of options, such as Morning Stars, Great Weapons, Lance. If you're mounted, they can take a shield. They can also take a Knight's Vow, a Questing Vow, or a Grail Vow. They can have a Knightly Vow, and the Duke may have up to 100 points of magic items, the Baron may have 75 points, and the Paladin may have 50 points. Special rules wise, the Duke has obviously got the Blessing of the Lady, Rallying Cry and the Grail Vow, and the Baron and the Paladin, who are your sort of hero models, have Blessings of the Lady, Rallying Cry and Night Vows. And the Lord's Banner, so a single Paladin in your army may be upgraded to be your battle standard bearer. Unlike other armies, there is no additional cost for this upgrade in the Kingdoms of Bretonnian army. So we're going to go through mounts after we've done the rest of the characters, so just bear with me on this one. So next up are our magic users in the form of handmaidens of the lady. Now these are your prophetess for 135 points. She can be a level 4 wizard for 30 points and have 100 points of magical items. Your damsel can be a level 2 wizard for 30 points and have 50 points of magic items as well. They also have the special rule of Aura of the Lady, which means if any unit that they join, the unit gains special magic attacks. And they can also have the Shield of the Lady special rule, which is really interesting because they can be automatically put in the rear rank and not in the fighting rank, and still count as though they're casting spells. They can't be targeted and things like that, which is really, really good, because if they're challenged because of the new FAQ, they would lose any enhancements that they give the unit, like a ward save or anything like that, from their magic, and it just means that they can sit at the back and still cast and still buff the unit and not be singled out in a challenge, which is really, really, really strong. So next up is the Lore of the Lady, and we have 3 spells here. So the first one is Lady's Gift, which is an enhancement spell with a casting value of 7+ or 10+ and a range of 12 inches, and it's a remain in place spell. And if you cast it at 7+ or more, then the unit that you choose gets a 6+ regeneration. But if the casting rule is 10+ or more, that targeted unit can have a regeneration of 5+, and you can cast this on a unit that is engaged in combat. After that, we also have Burning Gaze, which is a magic missile cast on a 10, and it has a range of 5d6. So to use this spell, you draw a straight line with the roll that you rolled, and then pick an enemy unit who falls under that line, suffers a strength 4 hit with no armor saves. Ward and regenerating saves are done as normal. And finally, we have Lady's Wrath, which is an enhancement spell cast on 9, and is basically you give this to the mage herself, the handmaiden, and what this does is it basically increases the caster, the mount, and the unit's strength by +1 to a maximum of 10, and it also improves the armor penetration characteristic of their weapons by 1, which is really, really good, especially if you will put this into a mounted unit. Okay, for mounts, your characters can have a number of mounts. So a Duke, a Baron, and a Paladin may be mounted on the following. They can have a Bretonnian Warhorse, a Barded Pegasus, or a Royal Pegasus, or a Hippogriff. Now, the Hippogriff is only available for your Duke and your Barons only. A Prophetess and a Damsel may have a Bretonnian Warhorse, a Royal Pegasus for the Prophetess only, and a Unicorn. And a Sergeant Man-at-Arms may be mounted on a Warhorse. Now, these have all got a number of rules themselves, and they all have their own little benefits, but most of them are pretty much on the standard cavalry size base. Apart from the Pegasus, they're pretty much on a 40x60 or a 50x50. And then we have the actual Hippogriff itself, which is a big, massive beastie. And this is an interesting unit choice, because the Hippogriff basically buffs your character. It will give +1 toughness and +3 wounds. And it has a number of big attacks. It's on a 50x50 mil base, and it can only be a character mount. So a Hippogriff may only be included in your army as a character's mount. Its points are added to the rider. It's about 120 points for this. Now, there are no models so far shown for this, and the only model that we had previously in Warhammer Fantasy Battle was for, I believe, King Lewin, who was mounted on a Hippogriff. So be interested to see if we do get one of these at a later date. Okay, so starting with the core of our army, which is going to be our knights. These are the Knights Errant. These are 19 points a model. They have 1 attack each. They're weapon skill 3, so they're not amazing. They come on 30x60 mil bases. You have to have a unit strength of 5 or more, and you can have full command. They have hand weapons, lances, heavy armor, and shields, and the horses have their iron shove cloves. So they can have up to a 25 points of standard bear. Standard really, so they're not great, but you need to kind of have them to sort of unlock things. Now, the next up is the Mounted Knights of the Realm. Now, these are your next level up for your knights. They're 24 points a model. They're weapon skill 4. They have all of the same stuff as before. Full command for 7 points per model. They can have a standard for 25 points. And the knight can have up to 25 points of magical items. Now, both units can have knightly vows, and we will go through them shortly. So next up we have our questing knights. Now, as you can imagine, these are weapon skill 5 knights. They have a better leadership at leadership 8, and they come in at 26 points a model. Now, again, minimum unit of 5, 30 by 60 mil base, and they have all of the same stuff. Now, the slight difference is that this unit can have 100 points of worth of magical standard, basically. And the knight, the paragon, the unit leader, can have a knightly virtue, and he can have up to 25 points of magical items. And they can also, these guys also get a questing vow. So as you can see, the knights get better. They get slightly access to some additional special rules. Now on to the Grail Knights. These guys are 38 points a model. They are leadership 9, and they have a weapon skill of 6. Now these are interesting that they can be brought in a minimum unit size of 3 models or more, which is really cool. They can have full command, obviously, for 7 points per model. They can have a magical standard worth up to 100 points. And the Grail Guardian can have a knightly virtue, and he can have 50 points worth of magical items. Now, there's one thing to also remember with this unit is they have the Living Saint special rule, which means that every model in a unit of Grail Knights can accept challenges in the same manner of a character. So think of these of like a unit of chosen Chaos Warriors. Basically, they're all like little mini characters, but they're kind of not little mini characters, but it's really, really kind of cool. But yeah, these are guys who are going to be hard hitting. They're very expensive, but minimum unit size of 3 is pretty good. Next up, we have the Pegasus Knights unit. Now, these are monstrous cavalry. They come at 55 points per model. They have a weapon skill of 5. They have a movement of 7. They have 2 wounds each, and they basically have a leadership 8. And you can have a minimum unit size of 3 models. Now, you can have a full command, so you can have a musician, standard, and a champion. And the standard can be upgraded with a magic standard for up to 50 points. Now, they have a number of special rules, which I'm not really going to go into because there's quite a lot of them. But they can also have a dispersed formation, which means that while in skirmish formation, every model in a unit with the Pegasus Knights must be within 2 inches of another model of the same unit rather than 1. So it's really kind of good. Skirmishers are really good because that means they've got a 360 degree line of sight, which is really, really solid. Now, don't get me wrong, these models are pretty old. They definitely look it. They're one of the only thing that didn't really sell very well during the whole pre-order window, but I kind of quite like them. Pegasus Knights are pretty good, especially when you can sort of add in your mounted characters like your paladins and your barons and your dukes and stuff on their Pegasus. So just think of them more as additional wounds for him. So some of your units get a chivalrous vows, and this is your knightly vows. So a model with a chivalric vow does not have to have a panic test when a friendly unit of peasants. Special rule is destroyed within 6 inches of it, or when it flees through a friendly unit with the peasantry special rule. So basically, your knights look down onto your vows and they don't care if they die. Think orcs and goblins, kind of the same thing there. So a unit with a chivalric vow cannot be joined by characters that have peasants special rule, and a character with a chivalric vow cannot join a unit with a peasantry special rule. So questing knights get the questing vow. So just like the knightly vow that the other knights get, they get a little bit of additional rules added to theirs, which means that they are stubborn and they get to re-roll any failed fear, panic, and terror tests. So again, just like the other knights, they can't join peasants. They don't care if peasants break around them. So they're pretty strong and not bad. And your Grail Knights have an interesting vow. They have the Grail vow, so they are immune to psychology. They also have magical attacks and are stubborn, and they always count as having the blessing of the lady. So they don't need to kneel at the start of the game, and they always have that. but they do have to always accept a challenge. And again, they can't join a unit of peasants, and peasants can't join them. Okay, so the army has a lot of additional extra things you can buy, such as your knightly virtues, magic items, enhancements, and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to go massively into detail of all of what they are, but just some of the knightly virtues that I will touch on as we are talking about the knights. So you can have things like the virtue of the knightly Templar, which is a 70 points, and during a turn in which it charges, a model with this virtue gains D3 extra attacks and hatred of all enemy special roll. So as you can see, they literally are like basically additional magic items, and they kind of work the same. The one thing to note is these virtues, the knightly virtues, you can only take one of each per army, so you can't have multiple of the same virtues. It's the same as the magic weapons, the magic armor, talismans, and enhancements and such. So first of your peasant troops are your men-at-arms, and these are a unit of 25 by 25 regular infantry that come in at a cost of 4 points a model, and you can have a minimum unit size of 10. They have hand weapons, polearms, light armor, and shield, and they can be given a full command as well as a Grail monk. And a Grail monk may be equipped with a blessed Triarch. Now they have close order, horde, levies, peasant, shield, wall, and warband. And the Grail monk counts as a champion, which means that the unit has 2 champions. The blessed Triarch is an interesting thing that if you pay the 25 points for it, you basically can give the unit stubborn. Now, I would say if you're going to take a big unit of these, you're probably going to do that. These guys are your chaff. They're kind of there to protect the flanks of your knights and act as a screen unit. So being able to give them stubborn will kind of waylay that really bad leadership of 5 that they have. So yeah, definitely worth investing in that extra 32 points. Okay, so your next up for your peasants are your peasant bowmen. These come in at 5 points a model. They're on 25 by 25 mil bases. They're regular infantry, and they have a unit size of 10 or more. They have hand weapons and longbows. The entire unit can take light armor. They can have full command, and any unit may be equipped with defensive stakes and burning braziers, or can replace the close order special rule with skirmisher for free. Now the burning braziers are any unit that's equipped with longbows, and burning braziers gain the flaming attack special rule. And the defensive stakes, and you've probably seen it in the pictures, this is the front rank of the unit. You have the really cool plastic stakes put in place. Basically, a unit equipped with defensive stakes is deployed. The stakes are placed in the base contact in the front arc and remain there for the duration of the game unless the unit moves. And basically what this does is when enemy units charge the front of a unit with defensive stakes as normal, but do not have a physically cross the stakes to do so. Instead, the front rank of a charging unit moves into base contact with the stakes, making a disordered charge and becoming disrupted. A model whose troop type is cavalry or chariot must make a dangerous terrain test if its charge moves ends in base contact with the stakes. So basically it's just an extra defensive measure for your archers, which is kind of cool, and you're definitely going to sort of bring them for 10 points. You really will. So next up we have the mounted yeomen. They are a unit of light cavalry on 25 by 50 mil bases with a minimum unit size of 5 models. They are 13 points each. They can take full command. They can also have access to light armor and shields. They come equipped with hand weapons, cavalry spears, and short bows. And they can also have the feigned fight special rule for 2 points per model. Basically, these are your sort of outriders, your pickers if you want to get in a historical war game. They're sort of like your vanguard cavalry units. Think of them like recon troops. They move forward and they sort of harass the enemy on the flanks and kind of get ready for the big hitters, like your big heavy cavalry knights, to come in and wreck things. But that's kind of what they are. The next up is the Battle Pilgrims and the Grail Requiem. These are heavy infantry. They are on a 25mm by 25mm base for the Battle Pilgrims, and the Grail Equerry, which is like this weird sort of statue-y thing, is on a 50 by 75mm base. You can have a minimum unit of 5 to 30. They come equipped with hand weapons, light armor and shields, and they come in at 8 points a model. 80, that's expensive. 8 points a model, and the Requiem is 65 points. Now, they come with a number of rules. So they've got Close Order, Hatred, All Enemy, Levies, Peasant, and Stubborn. The Grail Equerry has Blessing of the Lady, Close Order, Grail Requiem, Hatred, All Enemies, Levies, Peasant, and Retinue of the Saints, and Stubborn. So the Grail Requiem is placed in the center of the front rank of its unit, or so close to the center as possible, and occupies the space of it, and counts as 6 models. Two to the front, and 2 to the second, and 2 in the third row. The unit counts as reforms. The Grail Requiem must be positioned in the front rank as follows. Casualties are removed from the unit as normal, but the Grail Equerry cannot lose any wounds while the Battle Pilgrim remains. Only once all of the Battle Pilgrims have been removed from the unit can the Grail Equerry lose wounds itself. The Grail Equerry counts as a standard bearer and a musician for the unit, while the Grail Equerry itself is within 12 inches of a friendly model unit that has a Grail Vow and is not fleeing. The unit gains immune to psychology and unbreakable. And it's also a living saint, so your army may include 1 Grail Requiem for every character unit with a Grail Vow it includes. So if you have a unit of Grail Knights, you get to bring one of these with you. They're basically crazy, hard-and-hitting Bretonnian fanatics. Kind of think Kingdoms of Heaven, when the army of Jerusalem turns up and they have this big massive cross with them. This is basically what this is. It's your Warhammer version with a Monty Python sort of esque type miniatures. It's kind of cool, really weird, and definitely worth bringing. And finally, we have the Field Trebuchet. This is a 100-point model, and basically it's a war machine on a 60 by 100mm base with a unit size of 1, and the levies have got peasants and skirmish and hand weapons. Now, the trebuchet fires at a minimum range of 12 inches to a maximum range of 72. It has a basic strength of 5 with a strength of 10 at the center point of impact, and it has an AP of -1 AP for everything else and -4 AP on the center point of impact. It comes with the bombardment rule, cumbersome, immovable object, move or shoot, and multiple wounds D3+1. It's an immovable object, so once the field trebuchet has been placed on the battlefield during deployment, it cannot be moved by its crew during the removement phase at all. So basically, we have artillery. Now, there are some other things, but we'll be going to be covering them in the Arcane Journal later on. So you may want to maybe think of other artillery pieces as well. But yeah, this is a pretty cool model. It's going to come out in resin. Really super excited for one of these. I will probably get at least 2 of them in my army, because there's nothing like throwing big ass rocks at people. So that is the Bretonnians. Now, we will be doing a second video on the Bretonnians, where we will be looking at the Arcane Journal and the army lists that gives, and then I'll do a separate video looking at the magic items, because there's a lot of magic items for this army, as well as the Arcane Journal, or I might just incorporate the 2 together. So like, I hope you like this content. This is like the first time I've really sort of made videos like this, so hopefully you enjoy it, you like the format, and please leave me some feedback below in the comment section. That would be amazing. And thank you very much for all of the support so far. If you are liking my content, please subscribe to the channel and spread the word, like it, share it with your friends and everything else. There's a lot more old world content coming. Plan on doing one of these videos for all of 9 factions, and then into the legacy factions as well. And if you want to support me in other ways, you can check out my members area as well as my Patreon. So thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye for now.